So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to edit while people are loading up, I'm going to edit the hair bit. FFD that. Control points. What did you say?
It started off as L1, it's going to be that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll put a minute onto the stream and ask me if I wanted to enable me not save the filter.
Do you?
Oh, that looks so much better.
Does it?
Already, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, now we're getting.
Okay, so convert to editable poly. Cool. Oh shit, I need to quad this up. I'm gonna tessellate this one. Because she's tiny, so it needs to be more obvious. Stylistic. Where's my tessellate?
Yeah.
I straight up found you a photo of her wearing exactly the same earrings, so find me a different pair of earrings and I'll do it real quick. Wait, what do you say?
Nothing.
What does she wear?
Like giant jumpers and knee-high boots, that's all she wears. It's true, she doesn't wear her quite. She mostly is most of the time. Like.
Okay, so knee-high boots you said, yeah? Fair. Okay, so what I'm gonna do for knee-high boots is I'll probably
expand your fucking legs or some shit.
Yeah, no, I'm not even gonna do that. Like I'll just grab all these around and chamfer them a tiny bit. Cute. And then basically grab that ring. Come on, buddy. Why doesn't it select? Oh, because I'm still on the chamfer. Oops. Ring. Nope. Loop. And just expand that. Like that, like.
I can't tell what yet.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna do it to both sides. And I'll. Why isn't she? Direct from Amsterdam?
Yeah.
Fair. Okay, yeah, there you go. Thigh-high boots. And then what's her earrings then? If it's not that.
The hoops are fine. Like.
I mean, be honest.
Like she just. Hold on.
Tell me, what are they usually? Can someone just find some earring?
Yeah, I'm looking. Jesus. You can't hear sucks ass. So.
It's really bad, isn't it?
Yeah. It's mostly just like statement studs, you know?
Oh.
Like little diamonds. But the hoops are fine too. She's wearing hoops in the 7 Rings video.
Yeah, exactly. So, get off my case. Okay, cool. And then there's anything else? Any kind of like other features she has that I can add real quick?
Well, no, not really quick. She wears giant jumpers, but like fuck that noise.
Yeah, screw that. Well, I could push the body and like make it puffier. I can do that. Yeah, I think it will be weird at this stage. I would have ideally made it from the start.
Yeah.
All good. So everything else is G.
Yeah, she's fucking thick.
Why does she have such short arms actually?
Because she's a chibi. Oh, you mean IRL, like, or in that? I don't know IRL. Yeah, because she's chibis. So what I will do now is I'm gonna rename that so RE, and I'm also going to make it transparent. Do you remember that? Alt X.
Body transparent.
Yeah, just so I can see inside it while I'm trying to create the what you call it. I personally prefer to have the wireframe on, but I know some people don't. I'm going to leave it on, but you can obviously turn it off if you want. Right, so what I'm going to do is build this skeleton first, okay? And this is why I have it transparent. I'm also going to freeze her using the freeze tool, so I can't select her, because I'll be moving bones and stuff inside her like skeletal structure, or her body. What?
Remember, this is all
being recorded. Like, cool. So I'm going to go to create, and instead of creating anything from the standard primitives, or even the compound objects, or any of the geometry, because this is all like geometry, for the first time we're going to move over to this thing called helpers. It's like a little triangle that should probably update your screen pretty soon. And helpers are stuff like dummies. Dummies are like an empty. basically an empty game object. And actually, if you import to Unity, it'll come in as an empty game object. So FYI, if you wanted to do stuff where things are childed to a dummy and you use that dummy to rotate. So like say if I have 10 things in a ring and I child them all to the one dummy and rotate the dummy, they all rotate. In Unity, it will be brought in as an empty game object. So the dummy will come in. So that is the standard stuff. What I'm going to go is go all the way down to this thing called cat objects, which is computer animation technology. I don't know. Things. Can't remember. It doesn't matter. But it allows you to create kind of like these skeleton bones called cats. Now there is a thing called a normal bone. A normal bone. It looks like a little kind of a diamond shape with a long diamond shapey thing off it. So it looks like this and like that. So if you ever see something like that, those are normal bones, and then they're linked to each other. So this bone can be linked to that bone. So whenever you move this one, that one moves. And like the old animation, not old animation, a lot of animation uses this. Now the only thing with this is, with these, you need to set things called IK, inverse kinematics. And inverse kinematics is basically like, if my hand is here on the table and you move my, like if I'm in an animation, you move my body, with inverse kinematics, my arm will automatically bend to keep my arm, like my hand staying there, right? If I have IK on my hand. If I don't have IK, my hand will like phase through the body, like it'll just follow because it's childed to my body. So with these, you need to set the IK targets and set all that stuff individually by yourself. With the thing we're going to use called cat, it's like a slightly easier way to do it because it has a lot of those stuff built in. So when we go and make it, you'll see that it has a thing called ankle. And wherever the ankle is, if you move the ankle, all the legs move. And then when you move like the pelvis, the ankle stays where it is. So it's kind of like if you put the ankle on the floor and you move the body, the ankle will stay on the floor. It won't phase through the floor. Again, you can do that all with this normal bone system. It's just a bit easier with cat. And cat will convert to bones anyway when you bring it to Unity. So when you go to Unity, if you export as an FBX, Unity will read it as bones anyway. So it's great. So I'm gonna, in the cat object stuff, I'm gonna go to this thing called cat parent. I almost never use muscles or muscle strands. They do work. They're kind of more for like squishy and stretchy stuff. So like if you want to do super realistic animations where if I do that and you have like a little bulge, you would use a muscle for that. But like we're probably not going to go there. Sorry, we're going to stay with cat parents and just do bones. If I scroll down, you should see there's a cat rig load save that has a bunch of like base cat rigs already created. So let me grab centipede, and if I click and drag, it'll create a little centipede bone structure that you should be able to see coming up soon.
There's a Shrek?
There is a Shrek.
Shrek at default.
It's not a Shrek actually, it's Shek, because obviously they didn't get it's Shek. They didn't get the licensing rights. It's like mech. It's like an English. Wait, what's Game Car? Game Car. Oh, that one. Goth Girl is. I think she's got hair and stuff. Hold on. Well, no, but they gave her like.
Oh, Goth Girl isn't loading yet. I'm very excited.
She does have one hair.
Where's her hair? What the fuck is that?
That little thing. It's like a little.
Does she have
flop of hair?
Bombs?
There are bones that are specifically targeted to only affect the bosom.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Sorry for the record, my name is Robbie.
No, but legit, like anything you see moving in a game on a character has to be animated in some way. Like, and it has, even if it's procedurally animated, like responding to physics or whatever, it needs to be rigged. So it needs a bone there. It needs a bone to target to. So like these are all pre-made ones. We're not going to pre-make, even though we could. The reason why we're not going to pre-make is I'm going to show you how to make your own, so you can then, in the future, you're making a walking spider tank that has turrets. You know how to do it because you know how to create your own one. And also you kind of get more control over locations and positions and just more control in general. So I'm not going to make any of those presets. I'm going to go to none. And I'm going to go down, oh sorry, I'm going to go down to, where is it? Create pelvis. Yeah, none, just none. And turn on the snap tool, so I'll snap it right below her. And just click and drag, and you'll make that triangle thing. It's called the character. It's just the base from which everything exists. Now, I don't give a shit, really, about this character once it's created. I'm going to create a pelvis from it, and the pelvis is like the hub region. And basically, almost every character will revolve around a pelvis. So if you think about it, this is where your whole body moves around from. My upper body moves around the pelvis. My lower body moves around the pelvis. If you grab someone by the waist and pull them, like everything else comes with. If that makes sense. Like, so it's kind of like the core of the body. A lot of people often think it's the torso, but it's not really. It's kind of like it's here. That's where like your base is. So that's why we're going to create a pelvis, and you'll see the pelvis appeared in her head because 3ds Max has no idea where the actual pelvis is, and this is part of what we're trying to do. We're going to set where it is. So once I've created a pelvis, I'm going to right-click to stop creating more characters. Once I create a pelvis, I don't care about the character anymore. I can't delete it because everything is childed to that character. So if I delete that character, my pelvis goes as well. But I will just hide it so it's not in the way. I don't need to ever, you should never ever move that triangle. All right, the triangle is like the base location, it's the base position, just hide it, it's done. So I've got a pelvis, I'm going to move it down to where her pelvis is. And I'm also going to scale it so it's more or less the same scale. Now what you need to be careful about is every bone will have a pivot point, and when you do rotations or when you do animations, they will rotate and move from that pivot point. So I'm just going to put it there. And if I look at it from the front, oops, sorry, just get it recentered. The legs are going to come out from the side of this pelvis, from the side of like that box. They'll be coming out from that surface. So job done, pelvis done, and then I can go to the create panel. And in the create panel, I can create a lot of things. There's like arm, tail, spine, and leg. I want to do a leg. Let me just show you tail. Tail comes in like that. Well, let's not. And basically tails react like if I rotate, you can see they're kind of reacting like a tail. So you can easily animate it. So it's cool, isn't it? And I'll just.
Yeah.
So that's gone. So I'm going to add a leg. And depending on the scale of your model, I should probably have scaled her up a bit actually. How tall is she? Doesn't matter. You may have to resize the bones, okay, to fit inside. Yeah, they're a bit big. Let me just resize them. Now be careful of one thing. When you resize, make sure you're on local and never resize lengthways. So if the upper body, upper leg here, never resize this way, because what will happen is occasionally a bug will happen where if I have the upper leg bone and the lower leg bone and I resize in this direction, like that, this sometimes clips through and you get this thing where the knee is bending like that and it's really screwy. So don't resize that way. Only resize in these directions, you know, like sideways up, not lengthways, if that makes sense. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do there. I'm going to try and resize them. And resize them, resize, yeah. This looks like a foot. It is not a foot. It is something called an ankle, and it will react as your ankle. Do not put this as your foot, because you want a separate bone to do your foot independently. Your ankle will control everything else. If you set it as your foot, what will happen is when you rotate your foot, and when you do that, like the whole leg will start rotating because it's all trying to follow the ankle. So don't do that. The ankle is just the ankle. And then at the bottom, there's a little square here, and that little square is called a platform, and it's basically what the ankle is targeting to. So you see if I move the platform around, which we'll update soon, it kind of also, the ankle tries to aim towards that platform. And that platform is basically our like floor, essentially. So the way to always work with limbs, you always work from extremities inwards. So if I'm working with a hand, you work from the palm inwards. If I'm looking from the leg, you work from the ankle inwards. So ankle first, I'm going to set the ankle to where it should go on the character model. So her ankle is basically there. And don't worry about the upper bits now, just get the ankle working correctly. And I like to I like to extend the ankle a little bit out so I can grab it for animation later. Then I'm going to go to the, what do you call it? Calf. Or shin. Get that into place. And you see the way I'm resizing it to kind of more or less fit the size of what I'm trying to grab. Because if I make it too big, it'll start grabbing other parts of the body. Again, not the worst thing in the world, but it's a bit of a pain. Cool. And then I'll make a separate one just for a foot. So separate bone and rotate the foot there. Try to angle it to where the foot is. Okay. Now once I have this one leg done, the great thing about cat is that I can just go back to the pelvis and just hit add leg again, and it'll add the same exact leg but flip to the other side. Another thing to notice when I'm making the leg, you see the way I've given her a little bit of a bend forward on the knee? Try to do that so that the cat rig knows which way to bend the knee, and try to make sure the pivot points are exactly where the bends are going to be. Cool. Then I'm going to add this thing called an up node. Up node. A little cross platform will appear. Has that appeared yet? Can you see me selecting a little cross thing? And when I pull it forwards, you see the way the knees bend towards it. So essentially, what that allows me to do is, because that up node is there and my knee follows it, it allows me to control which direction the knee is bending. So you can kind of like animate depending on what you want to do. Cool. Once I'm done with that, go to the other leg, add leg, boop, and it's there. I have a separate leg. Exactly the same. Job done. I will now go to make the torso. And the torso will be add spine. And this up here is the chest, not the head. Okay, and the reason why is, if I rotate that, you'll see what happens. It can only rotate like as a whole. And if you rotate left or right, it'll only rotate as a whole. So you can't put that as a head, because if that's a head and like you make her turn, her whole body will turn as well. So you don't want that. So you want to keep it independent and just leave that as the chest, and I rename that chest. Again, I'm going to bring that down to the chest area, resize it so it's her chest area. We're not going to do any like boob physics. Let's just have a normal chest here. Cool. And then these spine bones will react based on the relative position of the pelvis and the chest. And the number of bones can be changed at fly. So you select any of the spine bones, and you see the way it says bones to the right side, it says how many bones they have. You can change that. The more bones you have, the more of a curve you'll get when you rotate it, you'll get more of a smooth curve. So if you have a way more complicated character, you probably need more vertebrae. But because I have such a simple one, I'm going to change it to like 3 maybe. And then I'll scale those spine bones out so they fit the area they're supposed to affect. Cool. So it's basically like a little bit of her body. And I'll scale this part in as well, so it doesn't have to affect that much. Coolio. And the top of the spine is another hub. So hubs can create legs, arms, spines, tails, all that stuff. Any bone can create a bone. Pretty much any bone, you can create another bone as a child of it, but only hubs can create those weird ones like arms and legs and stuff like that. So on the other hub, I'm going to create an arm. And it comes in, again, giant. So I'm going to have to resize this. As always, work from the bottom up. So I'm going to put the palm into the area where her palm is supposed to be. And it comes in like that, basically with the back facing forwards. So you need to rotate that to whatever your character's doing. Rotate that. Just make sure the palm's actually correct. And be aware, this is a palm. This is not a like whole hand. So this is only like this area. If you ever need fingers and stuff, they'll be different. So I'm just gonna put that palm there first.
Is the palm almost that you can add fingers to?
You can add digits to it, yeah. So I'll do that at the end, but first I'm gonna get that palm into space. Then I'm gonna put scale these arms down because they're huge. Same thing with the legs. Make sure you only scale them in this, not lengthwise. And put those arms where they should be. So put that there, and scale them down so they fit. Cool. There's the shoulder. That little one connecting it to it is the collarbone. So if you think about it, it's exactly the collarbone. If you rotate it, it'll rotate the chest area as well. So that little sticky out bit is coming from the hub. And then the top part's obviously the bicep. So to the bicep area. Coolio. And again, same as before, try to give it a little bend. So like a little bend towards the area you actually want to bend it to, so that the cat rig knows to bend in that direction. You can also use an up node. And I will use an up node. Again, up node controls, if I move the up node up, the elbow will bend towards that way. If I move it down, it'll bend towards that. It'll just aim towards the up node. Cool.
Node or up node?
Node. If you click on any of the arm bones, so for up nodes, they only work for like the two bones that actually rotate. And the same with the legs, only this leg and this leg. You click on any of them, and there should be a button saying use up node. Just click on that, and you'll get a little cross. Just grab that and drag it out, and you can have that up node. So let's add the digits. So I'm going to go back to the palm, and I'm going to only have 2 digits really, because it's a mitten, right? So this is going to be digit 1, and this is going to be digit 2. That's the thumb. So I'm going to add 2 digits, and you'll see it automatically gives you a thumb, and it automatically gives you like a finger. Now the weird thing is, it always makes them super long. I don't know why. But click on any of the digits of the finger, and you can tell it how many bones to have. So if I've got like, by normal it's 3 on a normal finger. But if like you have a robot that has like loads, like a super long finger with loads of claws, you can extend that. Or in my case, I'm just doing that. So I'm just going to reduce the number of bones to 1 and scale it down. Oop, so that's 1, and the same with the thumb. I just need 1 bone for that, and I'll just scale that down. And take your time at this point to make sure the pivot points are exactly where you want them to rotate. So again, for that thumb, if I want my thumb to rotate like this, the pivot point needs to be at the base of the thumb. It can't be like what it is right now, which is like off in the middle here somewhere, because it will rotate around wherever you place the pivot point. So I'm going to rotate that pivot point and place it correctly. And spend loads of time on this. Like, I've been doing this for a while, so I'm a little bit faster at trying to get it right. But literally, if you don't get this right, what will happen is you'll go to animation, you'll find it's a nightmare, and then you have to go over. You basically have to re-rig the whole thing again, and it's kind of a pain in the hole. We haven't rigged yet, we're just kind of like making the sculpt. Cool. Rotate it so it faces the same way. Cool, that's more or less okay. Coolio. So I've got 1 arm done. Again, go back to the main hub, add an arm, and it'll just add the exact arm to the other side. So job done. So we're almost finished. I'm just gonna now do the head. So I'm gonna add another spine for the head, because basically you have connection from here to here, and that part, I know in a human body it's a spine all the way, but the way it reacts is this is like its own independent spine, and the bottom is its own independent. So it's another spine. Again, you control how many bones it has. And this other hub will be the head. So that last hub will be the head. So I'm just going to animate them really quickly so you can see why I do it this way. So you can see if I rotate that head, it moves like a head would. Doesn't affect the lower body. But if I rotate the lower body, the arms follow it like it would, and if I rotate it down, it rotates like it would. And the hip, if I move the hip, it follows. Cool. So go back to the head. This is pretty much, I could leave it at this. Child. I could leave it at this, but I'm actually going to try and add stuff with the earrings, because I want the earrings to flop. And I want which bones?
Hair.
Oh, the hair, yeah. Will I do a tail for the hair?
Not a tail to the head.
I was thinking of doing a tail for the hair. Let me try a tail, because I'm not sure if the tail will do what I want it to do.
What was swing to side to side? Tails kind of go up and down.
That's the thing. That's what I don't want. I don't want the. I want to be able to like whip it and stuff. Whereas a tail, I don't know if I can. Let me just check if I see if I can. And I'm just trying to get it to fit inside. Let's just see what happens if I try to rotate that. Doesn't seem too bad. Yeah, it might be alright. Sure, we use the tail. I'm sure I'll find out later that it's actually a terrible idea. What you can also do is... Oh, I'm already finding out now why it's a terrible idea, because they're all connected. What you can also do is a chain of bones. So you make a bone, and then you make a child of that bone, and a child of that bone, and a child of that bone, and it's just like a whole chain of bones. And then if you select them all and rotate, they'll all rotate like kind of like a tail. You can see I'm having issues now with trying to scale the tail because they're all connected to each other. So I'm actually going to delete that. Fuck that. I'll just use bones. So I'm going to add a bone. There's a problem though, because if I add a bone in the left, I don't know if you saw, but in the scene view I saw it appear, but I can't see it in mine. And the reason is whenever you add a bone, it goes kind of like to the center of the previous bone you're adding it to. But if you double click a bone, it will select all its children. So you can see it's selected there on the left. I can deselect this and now I can find my bone. It's real dumb, but it just does that, something that's kind of annoying. So I'm going to add this bone here and I'm going to call that hair. Scale that correctly. Squashing. Add another bone. I probably could have used the tail. It's much of a muchness, really. Add another bone, and I'm basically like this. Adding bone this way is more work, but it does kind of give me finer control over where the bones go, how big they are and stuff. I can individually control each one. I'll give you all a break in a sec, don't worry. And just remember, the more bones you add, the more control you have, because you can control every single bone, but the more animation work you'll have to do. So I could do like every single one as a segment, then I find control over every single segment, but it is more animation work. Cool, so that's her hair, and then I'll just add bones for her earrings. So add a bone again. Oh, sugar. And deselect everything except that bone. There we go. We're again remembering the pivot point, so just make sure the pivot point is exactly where the earring is. So if we get that right, the earrings should be able to rotate around that point as they should be. And I can just copy by holding shift and dragging. It'll keep the same properties, so it'll be the same, it'll be child to the same hub. So if I move this hub now, you should be able to see all the parts move with it that are child to it. Also something to be aware of, those two rings, if I rotate locally, just try to make them rotate the same way. So I can just grab them both, and if she moves her head, I can rotate both of them the same way. It's just easier than, because if you flip it, for example, it'll rotate the other way. Let me flip it around the other way, because you might want that. And now if I rotate, they rotate outwards the other way. So it depends what you want. The position does matter. Coolio. All right. Am I missing anything? Cool. Let me just check the hair. What? Food physics? No. So for rotating the hair, right now it's using selection center. So if I rotate, it'll rotate using the pivot point of the highest bone. But if I change that rotation, click and hold, and do it by each individual pivot point, I now get like this hair sachet swing, which I want. Right, so the rotation points do matter. So especially for animation, these things up here, whether it's local or the view, and whether it's by pivot point center or by selection pivot point center, does matter. Cool. So I'm ready to rig. And rigging is basically, as I showed you, the rig moves, the skeleton moves and stuff. It does everything I want it to, but obviously it doesn't follow. It doesn't follow what the mesh doesn't follow. So what I need to do is go back to Ari. And I'm going to unfreeze her and make her not transparent as well. And I'm going to go to the modifier list, and we'll add a modifier called skin. And when someone talks about skinning a model, that's just what we're doing. You skin the skin part of the model to the underlying bones. So hit skin, and the skin modifier shows up. And there is, if you scroll down, there's a thing that says add bones. So we're going to add which bones show up. Do you want a little break, or you good? I can take a little, huh? Let me add the bones, and then we'll take a little break. So I'm going to add the bones. By default, by the way, everything here is turned on. So all of these are all turned on, right? Like blah, blah, blah. So you'll see everything in your scene. See any cameras, any stuff like that. But if you alt-click, as it says, alt-click to solo, hover over the bones, see the way the bone icon is basically that bone I told you? It will only show bones, and that's a lot handier because it just means if you have other objects in your scene, it'll just not show them. So I'm going to select all the bones, select, and they're all added now. And they'll automatically kind of grab where they should. So if I move her pelvis now, you can see that she's kind of following it, but it's not very good, right? Turn off the, it's not really, yeah, exactly. So it's not doing it that well. Her head's okay. Let's see if the earrings work, but the earrings will probably grab parts of her head, yeah. So you can see her cheek kind of moves with the earrings, which is not what we want. And see what happens to her hair. Hair's not too bad, except it's like ripping the back of her head apart. Yeah. So that's always going to happen, right? It's really annoying, but it always happens. If I click, yeah, absolutely. This is the most, yeah, it's the most annoying part about animation. It's basically super painstaking and slow. So if you click on edit envelopes, you see the way the mesh turns white, and I get these little black little line dot things. Each of those are representative of the bone. If I click on one of them, see that envelope around it? That's basically where the bone is grabbing. And you can see it's grabbing part of the head there. And that's why it's being pulled. That's why the head is being pulled along with the bone. Because that heat map is telling you, oh, you are grabbing part of that head. Blue is areas that it's very little influence. Yellow is a bit more. Orange is even more. Red is like completely locked in to that one. So what I do need to do, I can turn on vertices, which means I can select vertices. So I can select individual vertices here. And I can turn on select element. Select element means if I click any of the vertices, it just selects everything on that element. So I want to remove this bone's influence on our Ari's head. I need to scroll down all the way to the bottom, and there's this little spanner tool. That spanner tool is a weight tool, and it tells me how much this bone is influencing whatever I have selected. So, for example, if I click 1 right now, Ari's head is completely rigged to that hair bone that I'm selecting, which I obviously don't want, but just that's what it means. So I'm going to hit 0. So Ari's head is completely not affected at all by that bone. Let me do it for each of those bones. Make all the hair bones, sorry, not affect Ariana Grande's head at all. Let's check this hair here. Yeah, this hair is doing it as well. And it's quite finicky. You need to kind of select each bone, see what they're doing individually. Cool. I think I got all the hair. So now, if I select the hair again, I should be able to sachet the hair, and it doesn't affect her head at all anymore. See that? Oh, her head's got like one smoothing group error there. I'll sort that later. But now it doesn't affect her head at all because I removed the influence from the head. Right? Yes, absolutely. I didn't remove it from the earrings, so you can probably see the earrings being pulled back a bit. So this is the pain with this. You essentially need to go to every bone, check what influence it has, and make sure it's influencing only the vertices you want. And again, remember why I was so like, hey, start with low poly because of this. So imagine if I had like a super high poly thing with loads of vertices, pain in the hole. There's another way of doing this called a brush weight painting tool, where you can weight paint and just like select a bone and say, wherever I'm painting, affect that area or don't affect the area. It's not as accurate as what I'm doing. What I'm doing is like I'm selecting a vertex and I'm telling the vertex exactly what number. So 0 is completely not affected, 1 is 100% affected, and then all the rest is just a ratio of that. That kind of makes sense? I know that was a lot to dump on you, so let's take a little break. Like if you have any questions, ask me now. And yeah.